morning, E3. Tyler Davies feed, checking in with you again here at Sun and Fun. I am very excited about what we have going on this morning. This is a very special guest. I can't wait to hear the stories that he has. His name is Sean Mahaney. Sir, do you want to talk about yourself? Tell us what we've got going.
I'm a retired naval officer, retired in 2006. Now I work in aircraft recovery business, moving airplanes from point A to point B, and just loving life right now.
Well, he's very humble, but we got something really awesome to talk about. So, as he said, he's an aircraft recovery, the director of operations, correct? So, what does that mean exactly? So you say aircraft recovery. Walk us through that process.
So someone will give me a call and say, Sean, I got an F-14. I said, okay, where's it located? They'll tell me, and I said, okay, and where's it going to? All right, and, okay, I will work out a bid, and I'll call you back up or email you a bid, and then we go from there, and we arrange for the forklifts, the crane, to be ready on the days that we need those pieces of equipment. And so they're not somewhere else in the world doing another thing. So, and then you go there and you set up camp and you start tearing the airplane apart. From P-51 Mustangs to C-130s, whatever you got, we'll take it apart.
So, how did you get into this? What's your history? So you're a retired officer.
A retired officer. So back in about 2000, a group in Sanford, Florida got together and they wanted to get an RA-5C Vigilante, which was the airplane station, the last airplane station in Sanford.
Okay.
And my wife got involved in it, and I was active duty at the time. And so All Coast got the contract, and the group wanted me to go keep an eye on them, so to speak. So, okay. I go back up to the Navy and they said to take leave. They said, you know what, we'll cut you no cost orders. It's a Navy thing. I said, okay. So 3 o'clock in the morning, I jump in a truck with 2 guys. I've only met one of them once, and drive all the way to China Lake, California. We grouped up, and of course, China Lake was very possessive of their material. They did not want me there. Basically, they said, get your airplane and get out of here. So that was not very happy.
How big was your team when you showed up?
We had 9 people for this one. 9 people, and 6 days to take it apart, get it on the truck.
Wow. So you took an entire airplane apart in 6 days?
Yes, to get it down to size and put it on a semi.
In one truck?
Actually, it came out to be 2 trucks because the wings and the tail, the horizontals on one truck, and then the fuselage was on the other truck.
Do you have blueprints when you go up to this airplane, or?
Most of the time not. Some of these airplanes, we show up, sometimes it still has gas in the wings.
Oh, man.
So it's very touchy. It's fun. That's why I do it. I have a blast doing it. I like to see how an engineer put this airplane together and how I'm going to take it apart and get to that bolt that he put in there that have no idea how to get there. So it's fun in that, but it's a lot of hard labor work.
So once you get it put up into the truck, where does it go from there?
Well, it goes to Weather Museum. That's probably our biggest clients, museums. They'll acquire an airplane and they want it moved back to their restoration facility. And so they hire us and we'll go take it apart. A few times it's a plane to be taken back to like Cessna to be re-winged. I did a couple of those. It's when you show
whatever
up.
The customer wants?
Yeah, whatever the customer wants,
So I heard you say an F-14.
Yes.
Is that the F-14 that was in the movie?
The one in San Diego, yes.
Can you talk us through that?
Okay.
Like how that happened and
all right, so
the challenges associated.
We get hired by Paramount to do this, and the airplane's in Gillespie Field. Majority of our team's here in Florida. So we drive out there with our truck, our trailer with tools. We get out there and take it apart. And like I said, it was in terrible shape.
How long did that take?
5 days to take it apart the first time.
So when you say take it apart, the wings came off,
Wings came off, horizontals got to come
the
off,
horizontal stabs came off.
missile launchers on the outboard,
Okay.
the LAL 7 got to come off in the pylon.
The vertical stabs, did those come
Vertical,
off?
they come off.
Wow.
So basically you're left with a fuselage, but you really can't go any narrower than that unless you got a big buzz on. And you don't want to do that.
You don't want to do that.
You don't cut wings off. You really got to be very careful. So about 5 to 6 days to get it done, and then we put it on a truck, 2 trucks, fuselage on one and pieces and parts, and the wings on another truck. And we drive to Lake Tahoe where they were doing the winter scene, and put it together. But this is winter time. We get up there and our truck's late. It's permanent, and you know, Paramount at this point is like going, okay, oh, this is not good. This is not good. We got a schedule, and we're going.
Let's go.
I talk to the trucker. Truck finally gets there at night, and Paramount's like, okay, let's go. Let's put it back together. Well, it's freezing.
How many bloody knuckles did you get from that one?
A few. So they wanted to do this at night, so they get these lights out there. They buy us all these pizzas, and I get up on top of the airplane, and all of a sudden I'm slipping and sliding, and I went, we're done. And they're all like, what? And I came down to Chuck, who had owned the company. I said, Chuck, we're done. I'm not sliding. We're not losing anybody on this. We'll be here tomorrow.
So you guys were you guys at an airfield at this point?
We're at Lake Tahoe Airfield.
Okay,
right
just
there.
south of the lake.
Yes, we put it all together right there, right next to where that hangar they used in the movie that they built just for that.
Yep.
Then we eventually put it in there for the movie. We put it together. We put it in the hangar. Saw Tom Cruise once. He walked by the truck, and we left it up there for a month so they could finish filming, and then we came back.
Was it built at this point?
Oh yeah,
completely built.
Completely back together. Missiles on it. Yeah, I had to show them how to arm the missile and all that.
Did you guys have to paint the airplane?
No, a studio company did that.
Wow.
And they just really did touch up and put that silly, whatever that insignia was on the side of it. And like I said, we couldn't take pictures.
Yep.
So it kind of really not good. But
so they came in to go touch up the airplane after you guys had built it.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and
so here you are still working with rusty parts, old dilapidated metal, tires, you name it, hide fluid, possible gas coming out of the airplane. Probably in pretty cold conditions as you're talking about.
It was 19.
Were you building it in the hangar?
No.
So it was outside on the ramp?
On the flight line. Yeah, just on the ramp. That's and it was the first day. It was crystal clear, not a cloud in the sky.
Super cold.
Snow on the ground, 19 degrees, but
19. You're building an airplane in 19 degrees.
but I'm sweating to death. I was down to short sleeves, but you didn't go in the shade. If you went in the shade, it was cold. But when you're out with the sun being reflected off the snow, it was really hot.
Wow. Okay, so away you went.
Away we went.
They did whatever they did.
Yeah, they did film.
And then?
So then we came back, took it apart, put it back on the truck, took it to North Island at Coronado, the air base there, San Diego, put it back together. Oh, as we're leaving, a snowstorm hits.
Of course.
Our semis
it would only be that way.
Our semi's right behind us. We take the turn down the path from Lake Tahoe, and they stopped them. They closed the road. He was up there for 3 days stuck in the snow.
Is this while they're coming down Donner Pass?
Yeah, just before you got to the pass, they stopped it. He was right there at the edge of Tahoe.
And is the airplane, is it on a flatbed?
Yes.
So you can tell, if you're driving on the freeway, you can tell.
You can tell.
It's an F-14.
It's an F-14. You're like, what are they doing? So he finally makes it there to Coronado. We take it off track, rebuild it again. They took it and put it on the ship to do the ship scenes. And then we came back about a month later, took it back apart, put it back on the truck, take it back to museum at Gillespie Field and put it back together for them.
So this is something I'd like to drop anchor on, because I think you being a humble man, it's tough for some of our viewers to kind of picture. So you say take apart, put back together, but he mentioned something very specific because you took it apart, took it down to San Diego, rebuilt it on the ship.
Off the ship.
Off the ship.
They loaded it on the ship.
Can
the
you
Navy
walk
did.
us through the difficulties associated with taking an airplane, probably I would assume on the pier, maybe?
It was near the pier.
Okay.
Close to the pier. It was, once again, not ideal. It's right there in the weather.
So do they use the ship crane, or do they have a crane come
They
over?
use a crane to come over.
And so they're lifting an F-14 up and actually putting it on the flight deck?
Yep.
How nervous were you at that point?
I wasn't there for that.
Okay.
When you start lifting airplanes, and by the way, they were using the actual rig that they used on the ship to get the airplane out of the landing area if it crashed.
Yep.
The actual rig that they had redone. But the airplane is corroding it apart, and you're picking it up from these mounts, and you're like going,
I wouldn't want to see that either.
Yes.
That would make me nervous.
When you lift an airplane, it's very scary. We had one big slip one time, and that could have been a disaster, but we walked away from it. The crane got a little too far, and
down it went.
And it scared the.
Man.
Yeah.
So the plane's on the flight deck. They do the shooting. They pick it back up.
Right.
Put it back on
the pier,
and then take it to wherever you guys are going to disassemble it.
And take it back, disassemble, and then we disassemble and do it all over again.
When you guys approach an airplane that you've never seen before, do you take pictures of it? Do you catalog how you take the plane apart so it's easier to put it back together the next time you guys
take pictures? A lot of time I do little notes. Okay, you need to do this one first because it didn't work the first time. You got to go this way around this. So, and most of it's memory. We've done an F-14 so many times, this one so many times, and done two others. The one for the Naval Academy and the one for Grumman that went to the Cradle of Aviation in New York and Long Island. 4 people. Me and 3 guys can take an F-14 apart, and we get it down to 4 days.
It's a good guy to know.
4 days
apart airplanes.
It's like that. So, but sometimes you're out there for a long time because that bolt won't come out, and it has to come out. And you really don't want to cut it out.
So what do you do in that situation?
You keep trying until
you trying?
Get it. You keep trying.
Are you using oils, lubrications? Are you
oils,
trying to shake it loose because it's rusted?
Yeah.
What do you?
You penetrate in oils, sometimes a torch, heat the metal around it.
Yep.
So a variety of things. You really, because if you start drilling and cutting a bolt, you can really get in some big problems.
Yeah.
Not replacing it, but the airplane might shift, and then you're really
structural integrity starts to question the whole thing.
Yeah, so if the plane shifts, the spar and stuff, then you got to get that bolt out, and now it's not aligned.
So you had mentioned the Naval Academy. Can you walk us through that situation, and how did that differ from what you did for the movie?
Well, the Naval Academy was probably one of the highlights of my moving aircraft and my naval. I wasn't in the Navy, but it's a great place. One of my favorite places. So the plane was up in Quonset Point, Rhode Island, at a defunct museum. The Naval Academy acquired it. So we moved it from there, and this one had the engines in it.
Okay.
So now you're really.
Yep.
Now your weight really went up. I mean, with the engines
now
out.
You're probably talking fuels, hides. You got all the extra avionics weight that's attached to it.
Yeah, it's really
all
heavy.
The wires associated, probably correct.
Yes.
Wow.
So that was a heavy lift, but it went off. It really pushed a lot of weight on the truck. We took it down there to Naval Academy, put it down there, and put it back together.
How long did that take?
That took a little longer because we had to get the drop tanks back on it. They weren't cooperating. We had to use a couple of Naval Academy guys, big guys. They came in and gave us a lift.
Players.
Yeah, they came in. And then at the end, we're working, and we had a liaison, a retired lieutenant commander, and he comes by, and we're soaking wet. I'm sweating. They probably smell like a skunk, So he said, "The Admiral wants to see you." like, okay, there's 3 of us left. The other team just broke up, went home.
And which admiral?
Admiral Carter, Slapshot.
Oh, Admiral Carter.
Yes.
Awesome.
What a great
man.
what a great
Yep.
man.
Great man.
So we go. I'm like, can we go back to the hotel and take a shower and change our clothes? He's like, the Admiral.
Trip and slide.
Yeah, the Admiral wants you now. And I'm like, okay. And then the guy's like, hey, when the Admiral requests your presence, it's not when you want it, it's when he wants it. Go. So he drives us over there to the Commandant's house, which is a beautiful house. It's historic, beautiful. And as we go in there, and now he meets us, he's in Dockers, Naval Academy, polo and shorts. Hey guys, how's it going?
Did
Come
you
on
go in
in.
for a big lofty hug?
No, just a handshake, because we were probably pretty, So we go in there, and downstairs, the bottom level has a commercial kitchen and this huge bathroom. He says, why don't y'all guys go clean up? Big bathroom. So then as you're walking up the steps, I look and I go, that's the bust of John Paul Jones. Wow, that's pretty cool. And I thought it's a copy. And our liaison guy goes, no, that is the bust of John Paul Jones, the one he commissioned. And I'm like, oh, so.
Okay.
Very well. And it was on a pedestal that is the height, what the bust on was his height.
Wow.
A little short guy. So we get up there, go to the kitchen, the Admiral gets us beers, and we just sat on this little man cave out there on the patio for probably 3-4 hours. Had a great time. That was, when you see something that you've always seen in the history books, and you look and there is that painting, and you're like,
yep.
Oh my God, it does exist.
It's weird when you actually can connect those dots.
Yeah.
Something you've maybe read about, something that you've seen, watched something on television, and then actually when you get to see it for the first time, I don't know. I mean, sometimes it can be a very emotional experience. To sit there and look at it and be like,
yeah,
oh my gosh, there it is. Can I touch?
Yeah, can you touch it? So I'm sitting there, and we got a beer, and I got a coaster, and I put the beer over on this smallish table, and we're doing it. And I said, man, that's a really nice looking table. And then he goes, well, that's the map table from the USS Constitution. I'm like, oh, take my beer off, put it in my lap, make sure there's nothing on there, because I didn't know it. And his wife came in a little bit later. When you get assigned to that job, and it's a huge job, Commandant there, they get to decorate the house themselves. And guess where they get to pick from? The museum.
The United States Naval History.
Yes,
wherever.
Right there.
For however long.
That's why the bust is there. That's why these paintings are there. And what a beautiful place. And what great host.
Well, so as you look back on your naval career and you look at where you're at now, 2 questions. Give us your highlights, one of your favorite memories of your military career. Think on that for a minute, and then your second part to that question, which I know some of our viewers would love to hear, is how you transitioned from your military career to now in this career. What would be a highlight that you can look back and say, this is incredible? Something that you can mentor, something you can give some advice, or something like that.
It was very emotional. My high points in my career were very emotional. I earned my observer wings, which was, they went out with a special letter because my designator as an ordnance officer doesn't get observer wings. That's way out of a normal path.
Yeah.
And so the skipper wrote a special letter to Nav Purse, and Nav Purse says, yep, we'll award him his wings. So we came off the 99 cruise off the USS Kennedy, and I had no idea that this was going to happen. So we regular fly in, everybody's there, your wife and all this. The skipper, that's when he pinned my wings on. And later in life, well, in that point, that man and me were like brothers. So it was very emotional. Probably my highlight, of my career.
Incredible.
I mean,
something you definitely didn't think you would achieve.
No,
and now as that's getting pinned to your chest,
yeah,
you're probably real time playing this back to yourself, saying, I can't believe this is happening right now.
Yeah.
Who can I reach out to to express how I'm
Right.
feeling right now, but it's an emotional moment.
Yeah,
You can't help it.
You can't. It's so hard to explain because I was my entire career I was trying to follow my father's steps. He was a naval officer, an LDO, an air crew.
Yep.
Went from prop airplanes to Mach 2. So
Wow.
he earned those wings as first class in the Navy before he was commissioned. And when they told one of the guys in the squadron says, "Hey, Gunner, why don't you get the observer wings?" And I went to the book and I don't qualify, but I flew and did the job. So the Bureau said, "You're good to go." So it was extremely emotional.
So now that you look back on that, now in the career that you're in now, tell us a highlight of this career.
One of the two highlights would be moving the F-14 to Naval Academy. I mean, that was, and my best friend, the skipper, he went to Naval Academy. He graduated in the same class as Slapshot. So
very cool.
So that was very emotional. The other one was moving a B-17 from the Smithsonian Institute to the mighty 8th Air Force in Pooler, Georgia Museum, because that was...
How long did that take? So you took a part of B-17 from Smithsonian?
Yes.
And this was in D.C., Smithsonian?
Yes. It was at Posey Center.
Okay.
Okay.
Yep.
Out there. That takes
how big was your crew there?
8.
Eight people.
Yeah.
And how long did it take you to take that one apart?
5 days. Because the problem with the B-17, the wing is so wide, you have to de-rivet the entire wing down to almost the flap area to get it down the sides.
How many trucks did you guys use?
Oh, I think it was 5 loads.
5 separate, or did you guys do a caravan? You guys have to go back and forth?
They went back and forth on the smaller parts, and then the caravan, the big one where it came in, they had the state patrol, escorting it, and banners.
Incredible.
So that's real fun because
you get a lot of pictures, people, while you're driving down and taking pictures of you guys.
You do, yeah, you do. But any airplane, especially Warbirds, they're historic artifacts and they need to be preserved. So that's my passion, is preserving these airplanes for future people to look at them and go, hey, that's where my great grandfather flew in, or my uncle, or it just, and it's good for the kids to see it. I mean,
really is.
I've done several, so it's
yeah,
that brings it to your heart.
You hit something that's very important, is for the history of where, not even just naval aviation, but aviation in general, to say where we came from and where we are now. Because if we don't keep these very, very historic artifacts intact, where we can see them and we can learn about them, thanks to the works of you and your team, then that information would fall off.
It'd be
gone. They would lose it, and then it would just be in the history books. Just like where you were talking about, getting to see those artifacts in person is such an emotional event. And you never know how things like this affect people in certain ways. Even with what we do here at E3, through mentorship, through training, education, and empowerment, to get to hear people's stories like yourself, Sean.
Well, thank you.
It's impressive.
One of the part of the highlights is when you go to these museums, only less than 10%'s on display. Well, most of the time they go, hey, come on back to the archives, and you see the stuff that they have in the back but don't have the room to put out there, and you go, oh, what a shame.
Yeah.
But it's always, what drives everything is money, and most of these museums don't have the money especially right now after COVID.
A lot of museums run off of voluntary manpower and workforce, which is, for me, I remember the first time I got to go in the Naval Aviation Museum and get to go look at the Blue Angel archives and see the history of what the Blue Angels are all the way back to 1946, that a lot of the people in that incredible museum that donate their time and are off duty, not getting paid, voluntarily organizing and categorizing the history of the Blue Angels. I did similar to what you said about going into Slapshot's house and seeing those things, where it's emotional when you see that and you're like, this is an actual photograph of the 1946 team or the 52 team or 77 team, and you look at this and you go, I've read about that guy I've seen those pictures. This is incredible. That's his handwriting, and it's an emotional moment. It's very cool to see that.
It's very emotional when you actually see it, touch it. You know, some of these airplanes, you just go, God, what's the history?
Yeah.
If it could talk, what would it say?
Well, Sean, thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you, sir.
I hope you enjoy Sun and Fun.
Oh, yeah.
Guys, thanks for watching. Hopefully, if you're here at Sun and Fun, come on out. It's a gorgeous day. If not, we'll see you down the road. Stay tuned.